Mere Conservatism.
All right, we're back. I'm Cleve Walker here in the studio, and David Perry, normally here in the studio, is otherwise occupied. David, you have been doing a lot of traveling these last few days. What's going on?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we're displaced from our house right now because we're getting some work done on it.
Oh, yeah.
And so we can't live there while the work's going on. So we're just kind of nomads. We're staying wherever we can. Currently in the great state of Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis,
the land of the free.
But yeah, what a beautiful state and a beautiful area. So much history here in St. Augustine. We went to the Fountain of Youth and we had a sip. I feel younger already. Please, you need some of this. You're going to need a lot more than me, though.
Oh,
I might have to bring back a couple of 5-gallon buckets for you.
All right, a slam at a senior citizen, man. But I'll take it.
It's cool to think that 500 years ago, Juan Ponce de Leon made the first trip to what we now call the United States to represent Europe, and kind of started the Western expansion into what we now call the United States. And 500 years ago, Cleve.
That is so cool.
That's true. And I think, obviously you and I are informed in our beliefs by our faith and what we know from Scripture, how God has revealed himself to us through Scripture and through nature. And we know human nature.
Oh, yeah.
And unfortunately, human nature means that things don't get better. They are corrupted by man.
Exactly.
And while the American experiment started out, I think, on the right track and with the right ideas, that eventually led to, the ending of slavery and all kinds of prosperity and things like that. I think that, unfortunately, everybody, even Americans, we're still human, and so we're flawed, and we're seeing that play out in our nation. You see a lot of organizations and things. I was talking to somebody this week about unions and about how important they were in the history of our country and for workers and things like that. But now you get to the point where they have sort of been corrupted by man. There's really no other way to put that. And now they just exist for their own benefit, and they don't do anybody a lot of good.
They're typically just become another arm of the Democrat Party, although there are signs of some kind of like divisions going on, as many of the police unions find themselves standing against the progressive Democrats in their party with their attitude towards police. So there's hope in that. Listen, I got a couple of things I want to run by you real quickly. We haven't had a chance to normally, get together. So I'm hoping that you're ready to answer a couple of things off the cuffs. And that's what I got here.
So.
Well, you know about some things and other stuff. You've been preoccupied, but I think you know about what's happening in Canada with the truckers, okay? As a matter of fact, the busiest border crossing in North America has been shut down as Canadian truckers there protest their max vaccine mandate in Canada. And so this is a big issue. Last time I checked, they had an online fundraiser that had raised millions of dollars. We know that was the GoFundMe that was canceled because they felt that the truckers were not using it, or they were illegit. And then donors flocked to a Christian crowdfunding platform called Give, Send, Go. I don't know if you ever heard of that, David, but it's a Christian platform, and they have already received millions of dollars on behalf of the Canadian truckers. David, this is a pretty big deal because now we're hearing that some American truckers are maybe planning to do a convoy to D.C. What's your feeling about this? And in particular, is this a good thing, or is this thing maybe fraught with a little danger because there's efforts to paint the truckers as basically insurrectionists? What's your take on it?
Yeah, well, only in America, and I guess Canada, in the year 2022, can people chanting freedom be labeled as Nazis. and it's really kind of funny to see the reaction of people. The word freedom, if that's a buzzword for you, that's because you're a fascist, which makes no sense at all. But that's what we're seeing. I have mixed feelings about this, Cleve.
Okay.
And one of my ways of thinking about this is really the hypocrisy of people on the left.
How so?
And you might, and people on the left might point out the hypocrisy of people on the right. So this is how I'll say that. Protests that block traffic and cause people problems. We have, in the past several years, had a lot of these in the name of Antifa, BLM, which we have condemned, and we have said this is not what you do. You don't. I don't know if I have specifically said you don't block traffic, you don't hurt, harm people or anything like that. The truckers aren't harming anybody. They are blocking traffic, and they're causing an economic issue. I mean, this is basically an act of war.
Well, yeah.
You would consider this an act of war in a normal circumstance when you blockade supply routes and things like that. So I'm contemplating and I'm thinking about this issue, and I'm realizing I'm considering that maybe these kind of tactics, maybe it's not the tactic that we should condemn, but it's more the cause. So there's a way to look at these, the style in which you protest and the substance about what you're protesting about. And you can say sometimes, well, the substance that you're protesting about is legit, but the style is illegitimate. And you might say that in this circumstance.
I hear what you're saying.
So, but I'm not sure that I feel that way. I mean, I've looked at what has happened in Canada, and they've got serious freedom issues over there. And it's not just about vaccine stuff. It's about speech and freedom of religion and lots of other issues that they're having over there. I actually think it may be time for people to take some drastic measures in Canada to get some of their freedom back. And I think that's what is happening here. So I wouldn't say that I'm completely sure what I think about it, but I think that in Canada, it might actually be time to do some of this stuff. And Canada isn't the only place. Australia is looking pretty bad. New Zealand is looking pretty bad with their draconian restrictions. I don't think the United States is there yet. But there comes a time and a place, Cleve, where this kind of thing is the right thing to do. They're not being violent. They're not hurting anybody. But they are being very, very inconvenient to the people in power. So there you go.
I like the way you put that, David, because I was of two minds about it too, maybe for a slightly different reason. But I like the way you put it. At some point of the battles that we're in, at some point you have to take a stand that is going to be highly unpopular, highly controversial. But if you don't, then what's left, the vestiges of your freedom, are going to be gone by the time you do. So I feel like that's where Canada is. My main concern, David, and it's already started, and it happened in the so-called insurrection on January the 6th, that whenever you get a large group of people together, even people who I believe are gathering peaceably and I think gathering for a good cause, you provide the other side ways of painting a narrative, making you look like the mob that they are, by the way, and making you like you are violent and the supremacists, because all they got to do is put one or two plants in that group or raise a Confederate flag. And where do you think the news media are going to focus in on from that point forward? You know what I'm saying?
And it certainly would be weird to see a Confederate flag in Canada.
They had one.
It's so weird, right? Like,
yeah.
It's funny because that they're not American, but here in America, everybody here, we see things that happen around the world in different countries through our lens.
Yeah.
So we, the Confederate flag, just fits the narrative of the left about what they think of people like this and Nazis and fascists.
And you can
like
put people you can put people with those emblems. You can plant them inside a crowd like this, and even though there's thousands and thousands of folks, they're going to zero in on the one or two anomalies they find and put that narrative on the entire. They did that with the Tea Party, David. I remember I went to some Tea Party rallies, and the news media only wanted to interview the kooks who were in there, and not the average person who was there for lawful means of protesting. So,
they call that nut picking.
Right.
They call it nut picking.
Right.
You pick out the nut and you show them off now. And like you said, there are going to be nuts in every crowd of any given size. Because, I might be there.
But that's a big nut. Yeah, for sure.
It might be me. But also you mentioned that they can plant people, which they definitely have done in the past. And would definitely do in these situations. They'll plant people that aren't really a part of it. They're undercover nuts, so to speak.
That's one of the things that happened, I believe, on January 6th, in my humble opinion. But that's another story for another time. I got to rush on, David, to another story because I really want to catch your opinion on this one because it's a pretty big deal. Okay, this particular subject. A statement recently by the North Korean Foreign Ministry. Here's the statement, David. It said, in today's world where many countries waste time dealing with the United States with submission and blind obedience, there's only our country, referring to North Korea, on this planet that can shake the world by firing a missile with the U.S. mainland in its range. David, these people are talking pretty tough to the U.S. after being quailed for quite some time by President Trump. Is the weakness of America possibly inviting some really bad actors around the world to get tough and put us on our heels? What's your take?
Well, I think so, yes. And, specifically about North Korea, there's probably no telling what they're actually thinking. But generally speaking, I'm going to say yes, because weakness invites conflict. And this is something that, our libertarian friends sometimes don't seem to grasp or understand or really care about, which the usefulness of deterrence. When you don't want to fight wars, it's a good idea to be the biggest, baddest guy on the block. Nobody messes with you. You actually, through strength and through shows of strength, you prevent conflict. And I really think, Cleve, we're going to see that. I mean, we're seeing that with Russia right now.
Oh, yeah.
And when you cede ground and when you appease people and when you show weakness, somebody is going to take advantage of that, and you're going to invite conflict. Now, the issue with these countries making overtures to conflict like Iran and Russia and North Korea is, let's just say Russia for now, that they're threatening Ukraine, and a lot of people are saying, well, we don't care about Ukraine. Why would we care about Ukraine? We don't have anything to do with them. It's not our problem. It's Ukraine's problem, blah, blah, blah. The issue with thinking that way, and I basically agree, I guess, although I care about the Ukrainian people and their freedom, I basically agree that maybe it doesn't involve us. However, eventually Russia will get to something that does involve us. Eventually, Russia is going to get to something that we do care about. If Russia takes over Ukraine and gets no pushback whatsoever, what's to stop China from saying, hey, now it's my turn to take over Taiwan? Taiwan is the big one that's in their crosshairs right now, because we get a lot of materials and things from Taiwan. We're dependent on Taiwan as a country, them making stuff for us. And if China takes it over, it does affect us.
Big
now
time.
It's something that we care about. And so my point is the power and the usefulness of deterrence. It means you keep them so far away from that red line that you never have to worry about it. That's what you want to do.
Exactly.
Because then what ends up happening is you have a president like Obama or Biden, and your enemies cross the red line, and then they don't know what to do because they thought all they had to do was say red line and that nobody would bother them. But no, you've been appeasing them for so long, they're trying you.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Problem.
I'll tell you what. President Trump bless his heart, who I didn't think of as a foreign policy guy when he came into office, proved what you're saying is true, because he literally said something to the effect that North Korea realizes America could annihilate it. It could wipe it off the planet. And he said it point blank. And for a while, North Korea was totally quiet. I mean, we didn't hear any noise out of them. We didn't hear a whole lot of noise out of Iran, who's talking stuff right now. Iran, by the way, is getting ready to get billions and billions of dollars when we get back into the treaty agreement with them, as we're about to do. So you make a great point, David. Again, I don't want America to involve itself in every conflict willy-nilly around the world or try to become the policeman of the world. But by the same token, if nations do not believe that you will do whatever it takes to secure the safety of your nation and also any nation that is an ally to your nation, because other nations have to believe your word as well. And our friends and enemies both right now doubt the word and the resolve of this nation. And that creates a vacuum that China and Russia are quite willing to fill. And I want to tell you, that's bad for the entire earth, including the U.S., and especially Israel.
Yeah, and when you read North Korea, read China.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly.
They're kind of the same. I mean, they're in the same vein.
Yeah.
They're not exactly the same, and I think North Korea is its own rogue nation, but China has a lot of sway there. And so it's a proxy in a lot of ways between the United States and China. And, they're blatantly saying, yeah, we're going to shoot off a missile that can reach American mainland.
Yeah. I don't think they say that under Trump. I really don't. Under Trump's presidency, I don't think that statement's being made.
Well, Trump would say, well, we have quite an arsenal of nukes, and they're pointing directly at Kim Jong-un right now.
Or somebody he should officially call Rocket Man. But go ahead.
Yeah, we're locked in right on his big fat face, and we're going to shoot him right in the face with our nuclear weapons.
That might be the way he would have put
Trump
it.
Would say.
Well, I got to go on to this next story, David, because I really want to get your reaction on this as well. I mean, again, we can never get to everything, but the outrage of the week for me, especially as a Black American, but as an American, period, we ought to be outraged, even though he's kind of drawn back on this. But supposedly to limit infections among drug users, the Biden administration was planning on creating a $30 million grant program for nonprofits to buy crack pipes. It was going to provide those funds to local governments and nonprofits to distribute what they call clean, sanitized pipes to help make drug use safer for addicts. And they were going to especially locate this in the inner urban areas. David, goodness gracious, does it get any worse than that?
It's the perfect government program. I mean, it's just like the government to do something. Now, let me ask you, is the crack pipe story, is that real?
That was real.
True?
That was real.
Heard
Yeah.
some conflict. I mean, the White House tried to walk this back.
Yeah. No, it was real. It's sort of like the time when Biden found out we were getting ready to give something like $450 million to Mexicans that have been separated at the border. He didn't really know that was going on, and he responded to it. Well, this program is was definitely planned. They're walking it back now because all the attention has been drawn to it. But they were definitely planning on doing this, and it's very similar to Democratic programs like giving clean needles to addicts too. I guess what I'm trying to say is, but they concentrated where they're going to do this in the inner cities where minorities are, pretty much writing up minorities as hopelessly doped fiends to me. And as I said, as a Black American, I find that particularly insulting. And it's just what the elite think. All they need, just give them, more drugs or at least access.
Cleve, this is the kind of thing, Cleve, that passes as democratic compassion.
Yeah.
To them,
yeah.
This is compassion. This is taking care of people who need help. How perverse is that? I mean, think about it. How perverse is your thinking that this is the kind of thing you think is a good idea? to help somebody, because I think that they, on some level, a lot of them actually do think that this is helpful.
Oh yeah, they do. They do. Yep. The true believers believe that.
How do you get to that point?
Well, David, you get to that point when you get so condescending that you don't believe a people have the ability to rise up out of their circumstances, or even have the desire to. You write them off and you say they are permanently going to be dependent, drug-bound, crime-infested. So the best we can do is just kind of make sure that they're as comfortable as they are going to be as they head down the road of hell. That's my humble opinion. That's how condescending these progressives are. They got the answers, and you'll be satisfied with the crumbs that will keep you going, but it won't help you, change your lot or improve your life.
Cleve, I have people in my life that are with drug issues, and my family is dealing with that. And one of my main concerns when it comes to dealing with this individual and their life in general, when it comes to helping them, I am so careful and concerned about anything that I do enabling them.
Yeah.
I go maybe too far. It's hard to know how to handle that, when it's a personal thing. But when you have somebody that has this issue, you got to be super careful about what you do to help them or how you relate to them, because the last thing in the world you want to do is enable them. I mean, I can't help but think, if I help this person, something that I do might help them get drugs or do something they shouldn't do and hurt themselves. I'm worried this person is someday going to just die. And I don't want to be any part of that. My conscience doesn't let me do that. And so I'm thinking the government helping these people, they're obviously enabling them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's clear, it's obvious. It's not even like, oh, I'm going to give you money and I don't know what you're going to do with it. That's one thing. No, I'm actually giving you the thing that you need to harm yourself. And man, it's really sad. It's very, very sad.
I like the way you put that, and thank you for that heartfelt expression. I also have some folks in my family who are struggling with drugs, and the thing that I was told by counselors, people who deal with people who are drug addicted, was in helping somebody, the worst thing you can do is what you're saying, is to enable them, and the best thing you can do is show what we call tough love. Not in anger, not in hatred, but simply saying, I will help you, but I will never help you to destroy yourself. And that's what this kind of policy does. It, quote unquote, helps by keeping people in that cycle of dependency, just like welfare programs kept minorities in a cycle of dependency under the idea we're helping you. And I don't call that help. So I call it, like you said, enabling, and it allows the situation to perpetuate for generations. That's the result of most progressive Democrat policies, David.
Yeah, they are not too good at this. And this is the kind of thing that makes people realize the government is kind of like we talked about at the beginning. The government has been corrupted. And it's just the way organizations full of humans tend to go. Okay, so here we are. It is a sick practice that they're doing here. I'm glad that this was reported on. It's hit the light of day, and that they're pulling back on it because of the outrage. I'm glad about that.
It stopped them dead in their tracks, and we have to continue to do that. The media, especially the media that is really reporting on things, needs to keep their feet to the fire. David, a bit of good news, though. Another poll came out, survey, which was the average of all surveys that are used to determine, the popularity of politicians. It shows Biden lower than ever. All the averages now come in the upper 30 percentile range, and that is huge. And I believe it spells a shellacking for the Democrat Party in the midterms and beyond. So I think that's good news.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. Biden and the Democrats are in the process right now of trying to change the story a little bit. They're trying to end the hemorrhaging that they're experiencing.
Good luck
saw
with
that recently with Biden going and talking about law enforcement and things like that. I don't know if people are going to buy it. I'm not sure that they are. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say there's some people who will buy it, but the ones who they really need, those precious independents, they're not buying it. Okay. They, I think, have seen enough. And if the crime and other stuff you're talking about were not so evident, the inflation is killer. I mean, we've got a wage increase that has already been wiped out, David, by the inflation. So that's staring the Democrats in the face as well.
Yeah, that's right. Inflation has eaten up all the gains that anybody personally has made. Man, Cleve, I can't believe some of the prices.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
And how quickly they've gone up. Inflation is really bad on everything. The economy is going crazy. It's very volatile in the market. Interest rates are on mortgages and things like that are spiking. People are paying more for everything. And so any gains that people may have gotten, sure, they may have gotten a $2,500 raise last year. But guess what?
It's gone.
That's eaten up in gas.
Yep, it's gone.
And different things like that. Yeah.
So, David, I'm glad we ended on that positive note because all the other stuff was truly crazy. And as always, if folks want to hear this entire podcast again, best way?
Yeah, they can check it out on Apple Podcasts. They can find it on YouTube under MereCon Media, also on Facebook.
Oh, definitely. And chime in on Facebook. We love getting your opinions there as well. Well, David, thank you so much for joining us. Even if we can't be in the same studio together, you always bring some information and inspiration of what you got to say.
Really glad to be able to be with you. Hopefully I'll be back live with you next week.
We hope so, too. And listen, remember, no matter how bad things are getting or have gotten, there is still yet hope. Keep hope alive, but it's a hope that we have in our faith in Jesus Christ. And have a good day. It's not over with yet. For Mere Conservatism, this is David Perry over there in the phone. I'm Cleve Walker here in the studio. We'll see you later.